Hello, welcome back to Erica's Little Welsh Garden. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm just at home working in my polytunnel in my woodland garden, and this is an area that I've not actually shared with you very much this year for one reason or another. But today in the polytunnel I'm working on creating a new bed at the very end. So I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to bring you along, show you what I've got growing in there at the moment, how it's been doing in its first season, and see how I get on creating this new bed. So come along. As you can see, it's looking pretty empty in here at the moment, and when I actually built this polytunnel back in April, I think it was, I was planning, or at least hoping, that I would be having an excellent growing season in here, and that I'd be doing lots of content showing you all the different varieties that I could grow in my fairly shady woodland garden. But one thing or another has kind of come in the way, and I've not been able to do that. And actually, if you saw a picture of this polytunnel 2 weeks ago, you would see what a massive jungle it was, and mainly that was because I actually did plant this polytunnel up with lots of different vegetables. But when I created this polytunnel, the beds on either side were created from homemade compost and from the old raised beds that I had in the woodland garden, which meant they were full of loads of things like dock leaf, or dock plants, lots of buttercups and things like that. So because I kind of just let things grow in here, everything got planted up, and the things like the docks and the dandelions and all those weeds that you get in your lawn, or in an untended garden, just grew like crazy in here. So actually things did grow really well, but the things like my cabbages or my other brassicas like the kale and the pumpkin and squash, quite a lot of them were eaten by slugs and snails. And I've got a remaining 2 pumpkin plants in here at the moment. Well, they're a squash plant. I've got one here and one on the side here, and actually they were pretty pale looking because they've just been crowded out by everything else. And in the last week or so, they have really kind of gone really lovely dark green, soaking up all of the sun. But as you can see, there's some tiny fruit on those, and I'm sure I'm not going to be getting any harvest from those. And the cabbage and the kale are just, they're net curtains really, or they're worse than net curtains. So I've left them in, see if I can get any pickings off them later in the year. But you might think this year's been wasted because I kind of let things get a little bit out of hand in here. But what I have realised is that crops grow incredibly well in here. I was a little bit worried when I did put this polytunnel up in the woodland that it would have certain areas that were really shady and wouldn't do so well, and I didn't want to buy a really expensive polytunnel, get it in, and then realise that was the case. But because the sun can come in different areas throughout the day in here, and the cover actually helps diffuse all of that light, there is no area that doesn't get very much light. So pretty excited about that. But I still have quite a lot of work to do in here. All of the beds, I have cleared them now, and kind of ripped out all of the vegetation that was growing in here, but there are still loads of small baby weeds that have grown since I've disturbed that soil, and there's a lot of roots in there. I've not taken out any of those perennial weed roots. So I have a very busy autumn in here, and I'm planning on getting at least one of these beds completely cleared by the very beginning of autumn, so I can plant my onions. Favourite thing to grow, the onions. They grew so well in my polytunnel down at the allotment last year. But where you are behind the camera, the very end of the polytunnel, it just got cardboard down. When I created this, I only had a limited amount of resources and compost, and the very back was just grass. So I put a load of cardboard down, and I've ignored it ever since. And I'm really surprised actually that the cardboard is still pretty much intact. So today I'm going to be peeling back this side, or this side at the very back of that cardboard, and we're going to have a look underneath. Now, it was just grass there before, but it's very clay soil here, which is amazing because it's got, clay is an amazing growing medium because all of those micronutrients growing in there. But if it gets really hot, it goes like concrete. So hopefully we will see that I can, maybe pull out a few of the weeds underneath there, turn it over, and I can actually plant in it this year, or maybe add a little bit of organic matter to it. I don't know, but enough of me talking. Let's turn the camera around and have a look under the cardboard. I'm pretty impressed actually at how intact this cardboard is looking at the moment. But as you can see, I've got some buttercup coming in, some dandelions, and there's a really big stinging nettle in here. And this whole area actually had all of that growing in. So it'd be pretty interesting to see what it does look like underneath. But if it is looking pretty good, I have some brassicas that can go straight in here today. So fingers crossed it's looking okay. I'm hoping that maybe the heat of the polytunnel in the summer has helped kind of keep this really hot and burn off anything underneath. But we'll see what it looks like now. Oh wow, this already looks pretty good. I think having the 2 layers of cardboard has probably helped as well. But even this is dry, so we'll see what it looks like. Quite a few wood lice, as you can see. I'm going to try and keep the cardboard here intact as much as possible, because this is going to be part of my pathway. But so far so good. Look at this. Oh wow. This soil is looking amazing. All right, let's get the rest of this cardboard up. Well, I don't know if you can see this, but there are a number of burrows and runs in here. So I bet that is mice or rats. So that's a little bit annoying. But now, if I get this dug over, quick hand weed, it should be ready straight away to put some brassicas in. That was pretty quick and easy to give a fork over, and actually there were only a couple of perennial weeds left over in the soil, so hopefully no other weeds are going to grow in this area. But the soil is so claggy underneath, and for an example, when I said it was clay, you can see there is a little bit of soil there, and well, I say soil, if you have a look, that is clay. I could probably make a teapot out of that or something. But this area of the garden actually is one of the flattest areas of the woodland. And when we were viewing this house, the owner said that this was one area that she actually had terraced and dug out to make flat herself. So I think probably quite a lot of the soil here is actually subsoil, and it's only had maybe 5 or 10 years of having grass on the top where it can actually build some kind of topsoil. So it'd be interesting to see how this does. But I've got some kale, so I'm going to go and grab them and then we can get them in. The brassicas that I'm going to be planting today are actually field grown brassicas, and what that is basically is the farmer has planted the brassicas out in the field, sown them directly. They have grown, become established into really kind of big and healthy plants, and then you order them, the farmer digs them up and sends them to you in the post. And these came yesterday, so I'm really impressed with them and so excited to get them in the ground. As you can see, their root system has been quite disturbed, but they should establish really well, and they are already growing pretty big. So get these in the ground. Hopefully if they're watered in, they do really well, and then I will be harvesting lovely kale pretty quickly. So I've got two varieties of kale that I'm going to be planting in this bed today. The first one is Toscano and the second one is Ruby Red or something like that. I can't quite remember, but they are pretty big. So hopefully I will be harvesting kale from them pretty quickly. I know there's a little bit of a thing about buying in plug plants and things like that rather than raising from seed, but to be honest, we're really late in the year now, and if I was to plant these from seed, they'd take ages to grow and possibly, you know, they won't make it to being adult plants. So I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with buying in plug plants. If you're a busy person or crops have failed, buy them in, because it's still better to buy in a plug plant than go to the supermarket and buy from the supermarket shelf. You know, there's a lot more food miles involved in that and plastic packaging. So I'm just going to put 4 in here. Hopefully I'll be getting some onions and some garlic in around them, but also the rest of these will be going in the greenhouse. I'm just going to put these in fairly deep. And brassicas really love having really secure roots and being tight into the ground. So I'm just going to make sure I get it nice and tight in there. And with brassicas, you can be really kind of quite hard with them. Oh, I'll tell you what, this soil is really clay. Oh. And to be honest, with kale, you probably want to make sure you're at least kind of 50 to 60 centimetres apart, but in here, I am planting them slightly closer. I really hope that you've enjoyed watching today's episode. It's been great having you along and showing you what I've got growing in the polytunnel and what my plans for the autumn are. I've got a load more brassicas now that I need to get in down at the greenhouse. So I'm going to go off and do that now. While I'm doing that though, YouTube have some videos up on the screen that they think you'll like. So please go ahead and watch those, and I'll catch up with you in the next episode. Bye.